It's the early hours of the morning and I'm still working. It's not for the first time, it's a daily occurrence. Funny thing was, and over dinner with my marriage on its last legs, I promised Emma, my beautiful wife, no more, yet here I am again, bending over backwards for another customer, putting myself, my family and my sanity at the bottom of the barrel. I'm essentially a yes man, just trying to keep everyone else on side while the people that matter most suffer in silence. It's a dark place and one that I began to call normal after being at the helm of my own business for the last 8 years. A place of complete and utter conflict and crisis that had started with a trigger that I've come to now recognize as what we call overstretch. Now, whatever the fallout, the cause is simple enough. A state that's simply down to a male primal instinct and want to provide more. A raw desire to take on more work and more business than we should. One that's all too often amplified by our willingness to please others by saying yes. Yes to the things that we feel like we have to, yes to the things that deep down we know that we shouldn't, and yes to the things that in the cold hard light of day often cause more harm than good. Now, I'll have you consider the big problem. The big problem with reaching overstretch is that for most it immediately leads to trigger number 2, the choke. Now, I suspect that you've already experienced the pain of the choke firsthand, because the choke is that place where you're still awake at 2:37 a.m. and you're like, fuck, I've still got emails to do. Fuck, I've still got quotes to do. Fuck, I've still got customers to deal with. And fuck, I've got a family that deserves my time. And fuck, I have got no time to do any of it. And herein lies the big problem with the choke. Something has to give, and when something has to give, the lowest hanging fruit falls from the tree and it stops you dead in the tracks. Sales stop, marketing stops, and family stops. It's exactly why during the choke we always hit trigger number 3, persecution and panic. Now, understand that the definition of persecution is hostility and ill treatment towards those of differing beliefs. Now, for us in this game, that means persecution from customers for dragging our feet, persecution from prospects because we've not returned the calls, and most importantly, persecution from spouses or partners because we're never 100% present. And I get it. Persecution is not fair because when push comes to shove, it's not our fault. I mean, after all, we're just trying to do the right thing, provide and protect, and that sometimes means sacrifices. Trouble is, those sacrifices and our internal justification of why they're okay don't fix the guilt, they don't stop the arguments at home, and they don't buy you back time. It's exactly why in my experience, persecution drags most of us to the bottom of the barrel, a place of either longer work days, sleepless nights, and more suffering. One that leaves more frustrated, more fatigued, and more panicked as our bodies suffer both mentally and physically. Now, here's the thing. When you hit that place, there's only 2 ways in which you can go. Collapse and fail, or suck it up and suffer in silence, which leads us onto trigger number 4, the persistence. You see, for those that fight on, they face a period of hustle, nose to the grind, in a distant hope that you can fight your way out of this misery by just working harder and getting shit done, because that's what men are supposed to do, right? A period of complete and utter persistence in one thing and one thing only: work. Work justified to those around us by the belief, the arsehole belief, that everything will be okay if we can just get the next thing ticked off the list, just get that customer off our back, or just get the next sale through the door. Now, the funny thing is, if you've persistently worked for long enough and for hard enough, odds will tell you that things will turn around and you will trigger a revolt. Somewhere on the surface that seems like a good place, one where you can finally breathe a sigh of relief because you can see the wood through the trees and finally start focusing on making money again. But here's the kicker. I'll have you consider that when you fight your way out of no man's land with just pure hard male aggression, hard work and persistence, there's only one way in which it can go. Now, sometimes it's a matter of weeks, other times it takes months, sometimes years. But one thing is certain, a revolt by its nature will always be followed by conflict and crisis and conflict is always followed by overstretch. It's why feast and famine is so prevalent. It's why no business in no sector is immune. It's why the divorce rate for men like you and I at the helm of a business is so high. Now, before you say it, more customers, my friend, is not the answer. You see, there is a funny thing that happens when you scale. Customers come to only want to deal with you, the man at the helm of the business, because they feel anyone else in the business isn't quite up to structure. You end up being the one with the fingers in all the pies, the one doing all the calls, the one CC'd in all the emails, and the one handling all of the fallout, usually at the weekend or out of hours, even if you have employees in the ground and on the business. Meaning the lion's share of the work sits with the one man, the same man that in most circumstances is already on his knees and at the end of his tether. It's why most employ up in one last ditch attempt to keep growing and break the fucking deadlock. The trouble is, more employees accelerate overstretch, they don't fix it. Because here's what people don't realise. When their back's up against the wall and they're under the cosh, these kind of employee hires get made out of necessity, not strategy. And when you hire out of necessity, I have you consider, they never pick the right people for the job. In fact, most choose competence over character. And here is the big fucking problem with competent employees. They are just that, competent. Nothing more, nothing less. Net result being, rather than reducing overstretch, more employees amplify it, leaving you and I nothing more than glorified babysitters, begging the question, is it any wonder the thought of taking holiday is so fucking scary? Because you're piggy in the middle, being eaten alive on all fronts. Customers, employees, and at home all taking their pound of flesh. In other words, you become the bottleneck in the business. It's the very reason that most plateau and can never profitably scale, simply because it becomes physically impossible for the current model to handle anymore without it all collapsing like a house of cards. Now here's the thing and what you need to see. When you started out, it's okay to look for more. It's okay for you to be the center of the universe. But if you don't adapt as you grow, then it's you that becomes the breaking point, the bottleneck, and the noose around your own neck inside of your business. It's why more customers or more employees won't break the deadlock. So understand right now, if your work is being delayed because people are waiting for you, if right now the work there is too much in and not enough time to push it out, or if right now you're suffering from feeling like you're being attacked on all sides and pulled in each and every single direction, then you are already at breaking point and overstretched. The first trigger here inside of no man's land is again imminent. Chances are you can already feel it coming. In fact, I suspect it's why you have already traveled on this page and why, like most, you have a serious doubt as to whether you have made the right decisions or done the right things in your business and your life on this journey so far. It's why the One Man Empire movement exists, to help show you the way, to help show you the new way to operate as a man at the helm of a business that's already been scientifically designed to help ambitious men take back control of their business faster with less stress, more profit and more freedom than they ever thought possible. A place where those who are gasping for air finally breathe, those that have plateaued make a fundamental shift towards the light, and those that are struggling in a never-ending spiral of feast and famine rise up in a blaze of glory and are born free. Meaning, if you are ready to do this, then prepare for your baptism of fire, because by the time you are done, you won't recognize the man you've become, the business you operate, or the life that you lead, and I suspect neither will anyone else.